Here we are with a luscious, intoxicating topic, esteemed and talented speakers, and a lovely set of audience. Soma, the other name of moon or the god Chandra, as per Indian mythology. Dionysius, a Greek god of wine and ecstasy and fertility. A few there around the world for this esteemed drink. Yes, it's the wine. Starts from the Bible, goes till the Rig Veda. In India, context of mythology, as they say, Soma's ritual drink, prepared by extracting the juice from a specific plant from your Himalayas. Excerpt from the Rig Veda, translated by Mr. Ralph E.H. Griffith, states that we have drunk Soma and become immortal. We have attained the light the gods discovered. So we have our esteemed speakers today. Mr. Magandeep Singh, founder of Iwbs, which is your Institute of Wine Beverages Studies. And we have Mr. Gagan Sharma, the Managing Director, Iwbs. As per Magandeep Singh, a talented professional who is the first and only Indian to qualify Sommelier Conseil from La Université d'Auvergne, Souzé-la-Rousse, Rhône Valley, France. He has spread the untold story of drinking in India and wine wisdom under Penguin Publications India. He has been iconized into the German VDP Wine Council, Chateauneuf du Pape AOC, and its Bordeaux Left Bank Conferry. He has also hosted various television shows and been a constant jury for the programs as well. And as per our next speaker, Mr. Gagan Sharma, a serious talented wine professional. He holds Wine and Spirit Educational Trust Level 4 Diploma in Wines and Spirit, and amongst the first Indian to be awarded Court of Master Sommelier Certified Sommelier Award, the only Indian to hold French Wine Scholar Guild Diploma. So we welcome you apart from the family of IHM Chennai, sir. Over on to you.
Thanks, Mani. You had a nice intro there. You said luscious and intoxicating. Now we are debating which one's luscious and which one's intoxicating. Well, we hope we both can live up to such expectations. Shall we go?
I think I know how to do this, but let me just see.
I think it's just
new technology. We don't do this one, so I don't know how this is done. Oh yeah, cool. Figured it out. No, we're not doing this in Urdu, so we're not starting from the back. Okay. So can you see the screen now?
Yes, sir, we can.
Okay. So Magan sir, all yours.
Thanks, Axie. Okay, guys. So today we are both here. Gagan and I, sommeliers in every shape and size, similar shape actually. But the point being that we are here to talk about what sommelier is all about and how a lot of us think that sommelier is just about getting a wine bottle from the back area and serving it, wine tasting and being very angry about all the wines and criticizing them and saying every wine is bad and saying that's the way it is. A lot more than that, guys. Okay, so today we'll discuss the who, what, and how of a sommelier, what makes a sommelier, today's context, and how you can sort of aspire and get around to getting into this field of work. Last year, if I were to be physically, we were there, we'd asked you in the classroom, who is a sommelier? Then the first answer we'd get from all of you is that it's a wine waiter. It's a person who takes the wine order, gets the wine from the back area and serves it, or else it's the person who takes care of the wine cellar. And what does the service entail? It's a nice fancy glass. The person gets the bottle, presents it to you, and then serves it with a nice looking opener. More to this job than just this. So today, if you ask Gagan and me, we will tell you that the sommelier is not just a wine waiter. It is a lot more to do with the, with beverages than just what you think it actually is. So here's a picture that you can have a look at. Now this gentleman is very elegant. He's dressed in a nice fancy suit. He's holding a glass of wine, polished shoes. Is he the owner, the entrepreneur? You don't know who he is. Show you this is one of the world's best sommelier, and he's actually in the wine trade, so to say. This is an image that you can aspire to. Okay, and it's an ambiguous image when you look at it, because remember, when you wear a chef coat and walk out into the salon, cook, and you cook food, whether you're in the pastry section or the chocolate section or the main grill, no one cares. If you're wearing a chef coat, you're a chef, you cook. The bar is responsible for making the drinks. The simple task of moving the stuff from the kitchen to the plate to the tables, and from the tables to the cleanup areas. It does everything else that we have not spoken about. So when you and I, I'm at a guest at a hotel, and the sommelier comes up, the sommelier will sell me at my table not just the wine, but also the whiskeys, the cocktails, talk about every drink there, help me with the pairings. So everything else that the others are not covering are covered by the sommelier. So it's a much bigger job just waiting tables for the bottle of wine. So going ahead, the question comes, what else is the sommelier going to do? You've got the who sorted. So what is a sommelier's responsibility? And a very simple way of putting it at the ISC, if you were to come, is that if you can eat it, drink it, or serve it, you need to know it. Okay. So be it the cigar array or the cognac trolley, be it any food item, be it anything that can be drunk as an aperitif or with the main course or as dessert accompaniment, as a sommelier. And it's not just wine. If someone wants to have Armagnac, you better know about it. If someone wants to have a cocktail, you need to know about it. And that's why it's a much bigger field than just this. And then what you need to learn to be a sommelier is the fact that there is a lot of mix and ambiguity in the field. So here you're seeing a field, which is the vineyard. What can you tell from this picture? Not much. You can only tell the fact that there's a tree, it's a hill, and it curves downwards. You can't say much about this hill from just this picture. Maybe it's morning or evening, but that's about it. Here's a picture of a grape bunch. And in this grape bunch, what can you tell? Is it the Cabernet? Is it a Pinot? You can only guess. You know it's a red grape, but you can't tell which one. And there are hundreds of varieties of red grapes. There are almost 100,000 grapes that can be used to make wines, perhaps. But you need to know, you don't know what the consumer wants or how the consumer wishes to be treated. Is this lady in a rush? Is she waiting for someone? Is she leaving? How to order wine? Or is it better to give her beer or maybe a milk? Apply yourself, not just physically because it's a toil going back and forth, fetching bottles and opening them, but also mentally to be able to calculate and run all these equations through your head within 10 seconds in front of a guest and present them back in a way that the guest can use them. And then, apart from just being this modern genius, you've got some other qualities to add on. You have to be a time traveler. You know, when you're at the table with a guest, you need to know what 1950s and 1960s were like as vintages, what happened in 82, which was so significant. Why is a certain wine from 95 better than a wine from 93? You have to know how to travel back in time. You have to be a historian. You have to know wine was made in France. You need to know also the World War happened, the prohibition happened in the US. How did that affect the wine industry? What was the phylloxera? What did Napoleon do for the wine world? You need to know your history as well. You need to be able to connect the two, not just for wine, but even for alcohol. Which cocktail was started when and where? You need to know these things so that they make for interesting stories. Which brings to the third point, that you need to know how to tell these stories. Knowing is one thing, but to be able to teach is what makes you really good. So think of yourselves as professors, as HR managers in the wine field. You have to find the best job for the wine at hand or the beverage at hand, and you have to know how to communicate that job to the people in front of you who are your students, namely the clients. So that is pretty much what a sommelier is. And at this point, I think, Gagan, I can hand over to you.
Yes, sir. Well, you know, all of these attributes come with with experience, and just with, you know, wisdom comes with age. You know, I think I've realized that from being a very young guy in the wine industry to you know, in the prime side of 30s, this, all of this stuff is something that you can inculcate. You know, as they said, that how do you know how to make a good sword? You should have a master who should teach you how to do that. And this is something that, if in case you you know, let yourself be you know, molded or tamed by a good master in the craft, you should be able to get all of that. But there's one thing that nobody can teach you, and that is to be a money maker. And that is one of the jobs that a sommelier definitely has to you know, this is one role that they have to definitely play. Now, do understand, as we've already established, that a sommelier is not somebody who restricts themselves to wines only. A sommelier should be able to, you know, tell you the source of the cheese that has gone into your pasta, or maybe of wheat from which your quiche was made, the mushrooms that we use, the tomatoes that we use. A sommelier needs to know about olive oil, balsamic vinegar, cocktails and all of that stuff. They might not be mixing cocktails, but definitely they are the ones who will be communicating with the guest. So the last line of defense and the last line where you can somehow figure out what sort of revenue you're looking at is with the sommelier. So first thing, and one of the most important thing is sommelier has to be a money maker. Now, I don't know if you guys, when you will go into your once you will finish your hotel management and you'll go into the industry, there's a formula with which the industry generally works. Now, this is not written in stone, but this is just a general understanding. How is your salary decided? So I'm pretty sure you must have seen movies or even otherwise that there's a target that an employee is supposed to achieve based on which their salary is decided, or the other way around. So the general formula is that if your salary is, let's say, 10,000 rupees, 10 times of that should be the revenue that should be bringing to the company in a monthly or an annual basis, whichever way. Now, you can't just bring a lakh rupees based on 10,000 rupees salary. There has to be a certain amount of profit to it, which has to be about 80%. But it depends, as I said, from various organizations. Now, if we were to look at this formula, let's see how your salary would be defined. Your salary would definitely be defined by the virtue of the sales that you're making and the revenue you're generating. So if you were working with wines alone, let's say you buy a bottle of wine for 2,000 rupees and you sell it in the restaurant or in the F&B outlet for 10,000 rupees. How long do you require before a bottle is sold? One single shot, one single day. And by the end of that day, if you have sold only one bottle, you have made a profit of 8,000 rupees, right? Now, if you were to look at spirits, you would spend the same 2,000 rupees, but you will have 25 pegs of 30 ml to sell. Let's say you sell it at 600 rupees a peg. You make 15,000 rupees in the entire bottle and a major profit of 13,000 rupees. But as a statistic in India, it takes on an average 23 days for a spirit bottle to be empty. We are not talking about cheap liquor or bar liquor or banquet liquor. We are talking about in a restaurant style setup, a liquor which you would be buying for 2,000 rupees. So you'll earn more profit, but it'll take you 23 days to do that. By the end of the 23rd day, what would happen is you would have sold one bottle of spirit and made 13,000 rupees. But every single day, if you were to sell just one bottle of wine, you would have made close to 2 lakh rupees of revenue, of profit. We're not talking about revenue, just pure profit. And you now understand your salary is decided by profit, revenue, and all that stuff. So if you were just to look at this formula and look at these figures together, you would know which side of the business do you wish to be in, where your salary would be higher. So it's a very simple science, very simple calculation as well, that if in case you bring more revenue, your salary would be decided accordingly. So which part do you want to pick? Completely on to you. Now, why would you want to do that? The first thing first, and this is one of those rare professions where the demand is much higher for such professionals and the supply is much lesser. Think about it this way. If I don't know how many students are studying in your batch, but how many of them do want to become front office professionals? How many of them want to become kitchen professionals? They won't be just one person. And then think about yourself. How many people from your batch of IHM Chennai want to become a sommelier? And the answer would be very clear. But think about it. This is a profession that has just come into the being, or rather in the last decade or so. How many restaurants are there? How many hotels are there in the country? And then think about it, how many sommeliers are there? At every hotel, you would have at least 50 to 60, chefs, right? But how many sommeliers are there per restaurant? I think there are lakhs and lakhs of restaurants and hotels, and there are, I think, 40 or 50 sommeliers in the country. So, of course, this is a profession that the industry requires. So, if you were to acquire this skill and move towards this profession, the industry is ready to bring you in. The other thing that you would definitely know from your economics studies, supply and demand. If the demand is higher and the supply is lower, you'll have to pay a higher price. And this is the reason why today sommeliers are earning more revenue, more salaries as compared to any other professional at the same scale in front of his kitchen, housekeeping, or any other realms of the hospitality industry. The second thing is internationalism. You know how music has a language which could be understood anywhere. There are 7 notes, and you can speak of them anywhere in the world, and you would know what you're talking about. The same goes with alcohol. A vodka remains a vodka, whiskey remains a whiskey, a chardonnay remains a chardonnay, a champagne remains a champagne, no matter where in the world you go. However, the demand and supply for, let's say, an Indian cuisine chef in Japan might be very different. That of a Japanese chef in Italy might be very different. Your hospitality norms might be different in anywhere in the world. But alcohol is a language that remains the same no matter where in the world you go. So even if you were to study all of this here in India, you can acquire that skill here, and you can go anywhere in the world and you will be accepted without any prejudice, without any trade tests, or without any inhibitions. And the third thing is alcohol, and working with alcohol is no more a taboo. There's no religious, boundaries to a sommelier. There is no gender boundaries. I do understand that earlier in the days, working with alcohol for ladies was considered to be somewhat of, it was looked down upon. And not just for ladies, even for boys. When I joined the industry and I came back from my master's in Australia into India, the oldest people in my family, they were like, oh, working with alcohol? No, that's not a good craft. But then now they understand that, yeah, working with the alcohol industry doesn't mean that you're supposed to be an alcoholic or you get drunk every day to earn money, right? So it's no more a taboo. Are there female winemakers in the country? Definitely. Are there female distillers in the country? Yes. Are there female brewers in the country? Yes. Are there female chefs in the country? Of course, we know of them, right? So this is something where you have to break the shackles in your mind and say alcohol and gender or culture or religion or anything of that sort, it doesn't exist anymore. Now, apart from the hard cash that you get with the kaching sound in your account, how else do you get paid? First thing first, you get paid to study. The third musketeer in our team is Sahil Mishra. He graduated from his IHM, I think 2 or 3 years ago, and he knows that he has not only been supported with a scholarship from the company to study, because we want him to speak a certain language. Not only that, we do competitions, as Magan also mentioned, the Indian Sommelier Championship. The people who win in the championship, of course, they win travel awards and they go abroad and they see the wineries and the world outside. But the first thing that they get is a study scholarship, that you should study more. Even if you're a champion, you need to study more. Are you paid to travel? Definitely. Even the winners get to travel. We guys have traveled and we are asked to do all of that stuff. But the most important thing is you are paid through good company. If in case, think about it, the VIP of the hotel or the restaurant walks into the restaurant, right? Would the mixologist go and talk to them? Would the chef go and talk to them? Maybe, maybe not. But a sommelier definitely has to go and talk to them. And there's a certain amount of prestige that if in case you strike a good conversation with them, next time when they come to the restaurant, they'll remember not the name of the general manager or the restaurant manager. They'll remember your name and they'll be like, yeah, I want to talk to that person. I know of people who have mastered their craft so well. People call them in advance and they say, are you working on the floor today? They say, no, I'm not. Is it done? So we'll come to your hotel some other day. And that is also quite a prestigious thing by itself. So as a product of the Indian Sommelier Championship, we have created champions who have represented India abroad. Pankaj went to Australia as an award. He won a scholarship as well, but today he doesn't work with wines. Today he is the only brand ambassador for Monkey Shoulder Gin in the country. And 7-8 years down from when he won the competition, he is not working with the wine industry, but then that's what the definition of sommelier is. You do not have to just be working with wines. Champion is Atul Tiwari. He was just a runner in Leela Hotels when he came to the competition and won it. The very next day, he became the assistant restaurant manager. Then he became the restaurant manager, assistant F&B manager, and today he is the F&B manager of the Oberoi Nariman Point in Mumbai. He has, I think, been to 6 or 7 different countries ever since he has won the championship, more than 30, 40 wineries. And this man is a rock star in all ways possible. Next comes the gentleman in the middle, Harish Achrekar. He also won the competition. He has been the general manager of a chain of restaurants in Mumbai. And now today he is the brand ambassador for Bacardi, taking care of the Dewar's whiskey and Bacardi rum. Next in line is Pratik Angre. He is a sommelier now, and he is a beverage manager for a group of hotels called the Table Group. And this year, Wine Spectator magazine gave the award for the best wine list to one of the restaurants in India, and only one restaurant in India, and it was his restaurant. So he's a master of the craft. You can see beer bottles there. You can see sparkling wines. You can see a decanter. That's all what happens. Abhas also came into the competition, and today he's the beverage manager for all the group Oberoi hotels in Mumbai. He's opening new restaurants for them. Devati came in, she finished her OCLD and she came into the competition and she won it. And today she is the brand manager for Charisma Estate, which just very recently became the first Indian vineyard to be in the world's best vineyard list. A very prestigious award, and she is doing such a wonderful job at it. And the next one, Anushka, she used to work with us. Then she went and worked with a wine importer. Now she is a sommelier at ITC Hotels in Bombay. She won a scholarship. Then she won an award to go to Austria, all expense paid. She won a guest shift at one of the fancy bars in Hong Kong. And she was supposed to represent India and Australia at the World Sommelier Championship. But again, with COVID, we don't know what to do. So anyway, this is what a sommelier is. It's not just wines, it's not just spirits, it's not just that. There's a whole aura that comes with it. How do you inculcate this sort of a habit? There are various courses. There are WSAT and Code of Master Sommelier courses as well, but they all have limitations. And I'm a prodigy of both the institutes, and I can say one lacks something or the other. So one of the things that we guys have started doing is we started an institute called the Institute of Wine Beverage Studies, which has been there for I think about 11 years now, where we teach all sort of beverages. And as a part of that, we guys have now started a program called Learn from Home. Because of this COVID situation, we don't know when we will be sitting together in a classroom style seating, clinking glasses, tasting wines, exchanging notes, and giggling together. But we started something called Learn from Home, where we are creating series of programs, wines, beer, spirits, and mixology. Wine program has always been there from the last 2 months. And this Saturday, we are launching our spirits program. So they're pretty much like Amazon Prime or Netflix, where you sign up, you pay your course fee, and then you have these videos that you can watch at your own sweet pace, take quizzes, download the study guide, and you even get a subscription to a magazine while you are doing the program. So overall learning. Then we, as you would know, we do the Indian Sommelier Championship, but this year we are creating sort of like a junior league of that called the Young Sommelier Olympiad, that is only open for hotel management students or professionals who are under the age of 21. The idea being you don't have to wait for your career to be launched in the industry and then start studying. You can start, mastering your craft from today. So you sign up, you do about 12 to 15 master classes. Then you are quizzed. If you're in the top 15, you do another quiz in the finals. And if you win, there are various awards for that. So I'll talk about that later. But first thing first, Learn from Home. So you go to the website, I'll show this to you. You can sign up, and this is how the programs look. You can look at any of the videos at whatever speed you wish to. There's Learn from Home Spirits coming up, which will be launched on Saturday, as I told you. And then comes the Young Sommeliers Olympiad. The winners of the past ISC, they will be coming and teaching you, and they'll be mentoring you. So if you become one of the top, 6 people in the country, you will get an entry into Indian Sommelier Championship, and these people will groom you to go and win the competition, which has never happened in the country before. So we would urge you to be a sommelier, because we feel a little lonely that we have just got this group of 30, 40 people who we call sommeliers. The industry requires you. We as professionals also require you. So we would definitely want you to be a sommelier. If you still are questioning, why should I be a sommelier? I think you got to do it for yourself. You don't want to start your career at 15,000, 20,000 when you can do it at 30, 40,000 rupees. You don't want to do these long break shifts of 14, 16 hours when you can very lavishly wear a suit and a tie and work for maybe 8 hours a day and earn more money. You do not want to be taking these massive clearance trays and just running around the restaurant or the hotel, picking up groceries and stocks from the stores. You want to be in the front of the house, a neat, stiff-looking suit, talking in a lavish language with people. That is what you want to be doing. So if you want to aspire for a higher life, I think your easy ticket is to be a sommelier. So with that note, cheers, and we hope we see you in the field sometime later. So before we finish this, let me just see how, yeah, let me just present another screen to you guys. I just want to show you, um, yeah, I just want to show you how the program looks on the inside. So this is how Learn from Home looks. So you can go and register. So once you have registered, you get a login like this. And once you get your login, this is how the inside of the program looks. So you can start at your own pace, download your study guide, and then you can go on to whichever chapter you want to, click on that and start playing the video. One of the two bald gentlemen will show up and start explaining how things work to you. See it at your own pace. Then you have the quizzes here, which you can go and take and check if in case you're on the same page as well or not, if your learning is under control, on track or not. And then there is the other thing which is called the Young Sommeliers Olympiad. So it starts on the 15th of August. There are various people from various brands who will come and teach you. But yeah, this is the fun part. So if you win the competition, you get cash awards so that you can pay off your fee. You also get scholarship where we will teach you either how to work with wines or spirits or beers, a course of your choice. And then we send you to Indian Sommelier Championship so that you can go and compete with big guns. As I said, these are the guys. This is the schedule. You will find all sort of questions and answers on the website itself, which we will share the link of in a bit. All right. Ooh, I think, yeah, this is it. So that's it from our end. If you have any questions, any queries, if there's any way that we guys can help you, we'll be happy to do that. I'll just send you our Instagram page, which you can find us on, our email ID, and the link where you can pay a discounted fee for the program. The fees is 2,500, but for IHM Chennai, we'll be happy to do that for 2,250. I'm just going to put all the information in the chat now.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your this one. Now, the students can post their questions in the chat box. The students can post the questions in the chat box.
Perfect job, Gagan. There are no questions.
Yeah. We're getting better at our presentation, maybe.
The content is.
Let's see. All right, so guys, I've sent the link where you can pay a discounted fee, the link to our Instagram. We do something called 52 drinks in 52 weeks, where every Wednesday we post a new video where you can learn about beverages in a very crisp manner. Today was mead. Next week would be, I think, Pimp's cocktail.
For such an incredibly interesting session, sir. So we have a first question from Swagat Ranjan Padhi. And the question being, what is the scope of job as a brand marketing or sales and marketing manager in Wineries after being Wset certified?
Gagan, you will take that?
Oh, well, there are various things that you can do. If it is to do with the sales and marketing, as a brand manager, do remember that even if you've done the certifications or not, it's not, well, with a marketing person, I think you require very different skills. These courses will not teach you marketing or sales either. And also, of course, with sales and marketing, you require some sort of technical knowledge about the product. But then this is one of those, professions where experience and your contacts in the industry matter a little more than your technical knowledge. So yeah, there are various opportunities, but then do remember WSET or IWS or Quota Master courses. They are for technical knowledge about the beverage. They are not courses that will teach you about sales and marketing.
Thank you, sir. Our next question is from the training coordinator of IHM Chennai. Why is the market for wines not increasing in India compared with other alcoholic beverages?
I think, well, I'll take it. I think we both have enough to add to it. I think the market's definitely growing. It's just, it's slowed down in the last few years a bit. And there are both sides to blame. One is that there's been a lot of consolidation in the industry. A lot of people started out with certain assets and they couldn't sustain it. But the other reason possibly is the fact that the laws every year get tougher and it gets more and more expensive for people to exist in the market. Delhi is so tough that only the big wineries are here now and the smaller ones are leaving. And if you leave a market like Delhi, then your revenues get hit, so it's hard to sustain. Market is increasing. People are drinking more wine every year for sure. Wine is more present on shelves in shops. It is not quite there to support it. Wine, unlike whiskey and vodka, is more fragile, needs little more hand holding, and needs little more with the sale. There's a little ceremony and tradition to the sale of it. Requires a lot of infrastructure of education and awareness in place before wine can proliferate like in the West. But having said that, they have a 2,000-year head start on us. So I think we are catching up pretty fast still. Okay, anything you want to add to that? Mute, your mic is muted.
So yeah, so I think I think this is a very big topic, and we can speak on it for days and still not be able to help the market anyway. I think there are two reasons. First is definitely what is written in the Constitution of India under Article 14A. It's the job of the government to reduce or prohibit the consumption of alcohol as much as possible. So because the Constitution of India is based on that, much like republic, secular, democratic, and everything, it's just written in the Constitution. So basically, the governments have no interest in increasing the sales of alcoholic beverages, let alone wine, beer, or whichever one it is. The second thing is, yes, look at the amount of spirit brands that are there in India, or the beer brands in India. We don't have as many wine brands. And then again, every state works like a country by itself. Think about why Gujarat is a dry state, or let's say Bihar is a dry state, or some of the Seven Sisters is a dry state, but not other parts. Certain places alcohol is cheap, like in Union Territories or in Goa, but in certain states it is expensive. So the regulations are always a little mixed up. It has not to do with the product, it is to do with the law under which they are regulating. And other thing is, I think this your question might be that why the increase of wines in India is slow. It is to say that it is not increasing at all would be wrong, because the statistics says they're increasing at a rate of 33%. At the end of the day, it is an agricultural product. So if in case rains are higher, if something happens, something like a COVID happens, then of course agriculture is hit, and then the market will also be hit.
Thank you, sir. Our next question is also from the training coordinator of IHM Chennai. Why are there different laws in different states of India?
Very, very simply put, because alcohol is a state subject and not a central subject. So states are allowed to make their own laws, formulate their own taxes, and run it as per their wish. And since they cannot agree, and because it's the largest revenue churner for them, they don't wish to come under a common central rule. It remains different.
Well, the real story actually starts from Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel and Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, if you want to go into the history. Jawaharlal Nehru, under the influence of Mahatma Gandhi, said that India will be a dry state. Well, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel said, no, you can't do that, because there are certain religions or certain cultures in India that allow drinking alcohol, like the Sardars can. Hindus could, certain Hindus could, Muslims could not, and all of that stuff. So they said, if you have a dominant, Sardar or Hindu, this thing, population in a certain state, let the state decide if they want to prohibit it or not. So the whole law started from there. And of course, that's the reason why, depending on what the state picked up, that's how the rule became.
Thank you so much, sir. Our next question is money. Where do you feel is the best spot to fix a vineyard in India? Which is your preferential brand from India regarding wine, both red and white?
All yours, Gagan.
So there are two places, two states that are very progressive in terms of their wine production, because they both are primarily agricultural states. One is Karnataka, the other one is Maharashtra, and all wines in India, as of today, wines made from grapes and called wines, are made in these two states. Again, one, because of the legal system that they have adopted, and the second, they're on the Western Ghats. We're a little warmer country, so it makes sense where the rains are higher, so the cultivation and agriculture is better. So, we only have two choices, so we can't really pick our favorites because they both have their own characteristics. As to which brand, I don't think any brand, it's like, going to a restaurant saying, does this restaurant make all dishes of excellent quality, or are there, go to that restaurant and eat that particular dish? So it's the same with wines as well, that there are wineries that produce certain good wines and other wineries produce certain good wines. So again, with white and red and rosé and sparkling and sweet, it comes down to our favorite grape, our favorite wine style. So everything is a little subjective, and I don't think any sommelier, unless they are bloody drunk, will ever put their finger on a brand and say, this is my favorite brand and this is how it will remain till the end of the line.
Thank you, sir. Our next question is, which wines have the highest alcohol percentage?
So technically speaking, there are wines that are called fortified wines, wines that have added spirit to it. Those have high amount of alcohol. They can go up to 24, 25%, depending again on the country's law, the wine style's law. But yeah, they would be called fortified wines with additional alcohol. Still wines can still go up to, I think, about 17% alcohol in very hot countries. I've tasted Spanish wines which are as boozy as that. But yeah, fortified wines would have up to 24, 25% of alcohol.
Thank you, sir. Our next question is from Pranav Jairam.
Yeah.
Which wine would you prefer after a long day?
Very subjective answer. It depends if I'm feeling rich or poor, if I want to celebrate or if I want to just relax, if it is cold outside, warm outside, what I have in my cellar, do I have a bottle open, all of those things. But yeah, ideally I would want to have a gin and tonic or a tequila, not a shot of it, but just sipping it, or a good cognac. Wine would, I'll have to finish an entire bottle, so maybe not that.
Thank you, sir. The next question is from Tarun. What is your favorite terroir for wine?
Again, guys, there is no favorites in wines. It is all subjective. It's like asking where do you want to get your favorite, sambar from. And it always depends. You never want to eat from the same place or drink from the same place. You don't want to eat the same food again and again and all of that stuff. So it's a very subjective question. But yeah, I do like, Cabernet Sauvignons from Coonawarra. Barolos are one of my favorite red wines. I like white wines from this one. What is that place in Spain and Portugal? Wineyard or those sort of wines. So very subjective, but then again, it changes from time to time, day to day, and everything. Magandeep, what's your favorite terroir?
My favorite terroir is what I can find in my cellar right now. That's it. But I think it's a question like answering what's your. I mean, if you like cotton in general, you'll be happy with most kinds of it. So favorite terroir means as long as it's a well-made wine, as people have exploited the terroir so it shows in the wine, I think that's the best way. So If you drink an entry-level wine from abroad and it shows no terroir, then that's not a good wine. So as long as the wine shows terroir, I think it's a good sign of quality. If it shows, it's good. That's all.
Thank you,
I
sir.
think
So
it's very safe answers.
this is a personal question for both of you. Which is your favorite wine, red and international, and why?
Again, guys, the simplest answer would be the favorite wine is the one that's currently in a glass, or was last evening in a glass, or will be in a glass this evening. So if Gagan had a gin and tonic last evening, that was his favorite drink.
Yeah.
If he's going to have a tequila tonight, then that's his favorite drink. We can go through phases when we love white wines, then we prefer heavy reds, then we come to light reds. Remember, there's so much variety, it makes no sense to stick to one. As you evolve, as you grow, just like your hairstyles, well, ours remain the same, but your hairstyles and your beards and your general dressing sense changes, your choice in wine will also change. So right now, if you ask me, yes, I'm enjoying a lot of whites, and I like aromatic white wines at the moment. So Gagan mentioned Wineyard, so that's something if I've had, I would love to drink, but I'm not too keen on heavy reds right now. That's just a mindset. Could be to do a lot with the weather outside, with the general setting, and so on and so forth as well. Again, what's your favorite?
Can't tell. But if it was a red, then maybe a Barolo or a Vino Nobile de Montepulciano, Cabernet from Coonawarra. Again, dependent. Very, very subjective.
But see, right now, if we were both sitting together, we have polarizingly opposite favorites. And then at times, exactly the same favorites. So it's completely okay to not be on the same page with favorites.
Thank you so much, sir. The next question is from Tarun. He's asked, what has been the biggest change in the wine world since you started your career?
Well, since I started my career, I think the biggest change has been the awareness, the level of awareness that used to exist when I began, and people thought Sommelier is a person from Africa in a country called Somalia. But today, that people talk about certification and jobs in winery versus distillery versus brewery versus restaurant and sales. I think awareness has been the biggest change. What I can say also at the same time is other changes. When I started my career, there were a lot better wines available in India. 20 years later, the wine quality has gone down, not of local wines, but of imported wines. So some things have improved, but some things have not been so good.
I think there have been two. One, I think through Indian Sommelier Championship as well and otherwise as well, the definition of sommelier has changed. Earlier, as we mentioned in the presentation as well, people used to think wine guy is a sommelier and vice versa, but now the definition has changed and people are getting into other beverages and they understand that a sommelier, you won't have a different person for whiskey, different person for vodka, different for wine. So the sommelier is supposed to do everything, and I think that is a very good change. Knowledge is always a good idea. And the second thing is, as you also mentioned, the awareness about wines. But for me personally, and I've always been very vocal about it, the perception of Indian wines has changed in people's minds, and it is still changing. And that is something that we should be very proud of. What Indian wines are doing, not only here but even internationally.
Thank you, sir. The next question is by Mr. Artaf. The best budget fruity wines to pair with Indian food like kebabs, biryani, and curries.
Well, it's all yours. All yours.
Well, all those three things are very different because kebab would be a course that has technically no bread with it, which means it's a very meat or protein centric course, and spices are heavier. Biryani and curries, by virtue of curries are had with rice or bread, biryani is rice itself. There's a strong carb component which will tend to bring down the spice. But again, a biryani is a very varied dish. From Hyderabad to Bengal, everybody calls it a biryani, but they're different dishes. But in general, I personally prefer slightly low alcohol, but definitely low oak and fruit forward wines because for me it works well. So I love Pinot Noir, I love Blanc Frankish, I love the grapes names by the way. I love the Grenache as a grape. Now, if you ask me what are the regions, Rhone Valley does some wines that would work in it. A lot of Spanish reds would work in it for me, but not too heavy because for me spices are daunting. So I don't want something that's high on alcohol because then it feels like fire in my mouth with the spices. So I want mediocre levels, medium levels of alcohol. Oak, if it's there, is subtle, it's not heavy. So I want fruit forward wines and definitely low alcohol helps. So I'm ruling out places like hot California sometimes, or hot Australian generic wine. From the Indian list, if you want a budget-friendly wine, I think Aros from York is a really good wine to go with for the reds. First, Vijay Amritraj White is a really lovely wine that I enjoy with general Indian food. Apart from that, if you get a good vintage of the Ravello Reserve Chardonnay, I think it could work. Wines, again, we're telling you. And I think Cabernet Franc from Fratelli or Sangiovese from Fratelli are other favorites of mine. Any other wines you'd add? Mute, you're on mute, Baba.
As you said, this is completely dependent on the meat that you're having and the cook of it and everything. So yeah, but yeah, lighter wines, because if you want the kebab to show, and definitely it'll have a little bit of grease on it, a little bit of spices in it, then I think a general, a light-bodied or a medium-bodied wine would be a good one. But then depends on the meat, depends on the cook, everything.
Thank you so much, sir. The next question is also from Tarun. What is the oldest wine you've tasted and what was it like?
So the oldest wine I've tasted, I can't be sure of the vintage, because there's a guy called Dirk Niepoort. He's a winemaker in Portugal. He'd gone for a tasting and he tasted, I think he tasted 1850 and 1857 vintage ports. But after the event was over, there was some left in both the bottles. And he said, how can you waste this? So he combined the two, put them into one bottle and brought them home. And the next day when I was there, he made me taste it. Mug, you're tasting between 1850 and 57. So assume it's in 1853. That I think is amongst the old. Sorry, no, I'm wrong. It's 1750 and 1750. It's in Madeira, not port. But the idea being that it was not oxidized, is all I can tell you. It was still drinkable, still had life to it, but it was very leathery and the fruit was very mulchy. And was it my best wine? No. But as a, since a lot of questions here have been about superlative, the best and the most. And they are, as Gagan said, they're not the best answers to look for in wine. So in wine, the answers to look for are which is your most memorable, or which wine was the one that influenced you the most to get into the business of wine, or what, sometimes Gagan and I will have a taste. During ISC, I know Gagan gets extremely busy. He sleeps, I think, 24 hours in 5 days. Okay. So at that time, at one point, we'll have a sip of a wine, which puts a smile on our face and makes us go, that's why we do this. For me, is a lot more memorable and cherished than anything else. So age for me is not a great factor to really go by. Gagan's had, I'm sure, 100-year-old wines in his travels. Gagan, this was around you told us about recently.
Sorry, which one was?
The oldest wine you were talking about recently, the one that you had in Spain, I think, was it? Or
I don't remember which one I was talking about, because I talk a lot anyway. But I think the oldest that I had was 1894, which was a sherry. I had a 1952 Barolo that I wrote for, which was very interesting. We did have a 2013 Cabernet at Sula, which was probably the oldest red wine in India as of right now. But yeah, oldest doesn't really matter. If in case it is very old, but if in case it's not nice, if in case it's not memorable, then what's the point of age?
Thank you, sir. The next question is by Swagat. Are there any job prospects in wineries after being WSET certified?
Okay, can I just answer this one? First of all, WSET is not a course that makes you a sommelier. First of all, it is basically like a language program. It teaches you language of wines, of what a Chardonnay is, what are the 4 words that you speak when you speak of a Chardonnay, what are the 4 words that you speak when you speak of fermentation, what are the 4 words that you speak of when you are talking about a fortified wine or a spirit. They are not courses that will make you a professional in wines, be it on the floor or off the floor. You can take a certification and go to a winery, but what happens at it's like going and taking a computer Microsoft Windows program and going to a chef and saying, can I come and cook for you now? A wine, just because it is a certification in wine doesn't mean that it will prepare you for a service or it will prepare you for a production job. WSET courses are only courses that explain you what wine is. These are not courses that will make you a professional either in a hotel or in a winery. There are different courses for that. I'm pretty sure all of you who are doing hotel management would know that Doing a WSET course cannot replace what you learn in 3 years or 4 years in hotel management in F&B alone. A diploma in F&B will never be able to, WSET, any certification will never be able to replace, the diploma in F&B. And, just because we've done hotel management, um, where wines are also taught, do you become a winemaker? No. So there is a massive science and art attached to every single profession. And these courses do not prepare you for that. They do teach you how to speak about wines. They do teach you how to taste wines. But do remember, a server needs how to learn how to serve. WSET does not teach you that. A winemaker needs to know how to take grape and make a beautiful liquid out of it, for which you would travel, you would spend an evening with that liquid, or you would want to put your money on. WSET does not teach you that. Any question related to WSET after this is framed on this knowledge that WSET is a language course. It is not a skill-based course. It is a introduction to wines or learning about wines. It will teach you tasting. It will not teach you service. It will not teach you production side.
Thank you, sir. The next question is from Ben Frank. What will be your suggestion on increasing the market of wines in our country as that of other alcoholic beverages? When will wines be as competitive as other alcoholic beverages?
Mm, I'll just take the first part of this. Guys, remember whiskey or scotch, as you know, it came to India only in 1901 to 1907. So if that's when it came to India, and 100 years later, India is one of the largest whiskey consuming nations in the world, version of whichever. But the idea being that whiskey as a category is so popular, wine will not even take that long if it's done right. The problem is availability and awareness. Remember when cell phone services came in and they used to cost 64 rupees for 1 minute of a call? There were only 10 people in a town with those massive mobile phones, and they spoke to each other possibly. But the minute it became democratized, and now India is one of the cheapest nations for cell phone usage, look at what we've done with apps in the tech sector. Look how we are communicating right now. And it barely took a decade to get there. So the minute wines become affordable and accessible, that stigma will go away, and we will be one of the largest wine drinking nations in the world, which is the largest nation by many measures in wine, is 350 million people. That is not even the size of our middle class in India. We are much bigger. The only problem is our taxes, our laws impede the growth of wine as a consumer product. How to open up, we get there very, very fast. And I think even a decade, you'll see a tremendous amount of change.
Thank you, sir. The next question is by Mr. Pichai Suresh. What is the shelf period of wine?
That's a pretty random question because different wines are made for different reasons. A wine that's made by a person at €2 or €5 a bottle or €10 a bottle to be drunk in 2 to 3 years, 3 or 4 years. But then if you talk about the great wines of the world from be it Australia, California, or Bordeaux, they can age for 50, 60, 70 years. Gagan just told you about wines that were 150 years old and still managing fine. So the point being, there is no shelf life of a wine. It depends on the wine. You need to know about the wine, the winemaker, and that particular label before you can decide.
Thank you, sir. The next question is by Mr. Artaf. Can Siri or Alexa replace sommeliers?
I think never.
Never.
Impossible.
I remember I was sitting in the library of my college when I was in the third year, and there came an article. Language teacher showed me. She said, "Gagan, you want to be a sommelier, right?" I said, "Yes." She said, "See what the newspaper is saying. That robots are going to replace sommeliers because they will have better palates. They will be technically more this thing." Sommeliers have been there. They will always be there. Robots cannot replace chefs. Robots, I think hospitality industry is one of those industries that requires a lot of interface, which robots can never do as well as humans can. And definitely a Siri and Alexa cannot open a bottle of wine or shake a nice martini. So definitely not. That's not going to happen. I think Artaf has any which way left the conversation. So answering this question is sort of like redundant.
Right now, I'll just kind of rush to the next 2 questions. We'll be a little short on time otherwise. So the next one, Gagan, we've got is, what tips do you have for someone going to their first wine tasting? Tips. One is, don't have cheese before you walk in there. Maybe bite an apple or something so your mouth is clean and fresh. Have something to line your stomach. and remember to spit, and remember to be humble to your senses. So whatever your senses are telling you, listen to that, listen to the people. Don't be critical for no reason. Be positively, constructively criticizing things if you have to. Don't just say it's good or bad. Talk about other things as well. Gagan, you want to add anything to that? Tip for someone going to the first wine tasting?
Just don't get drunk. That's it. That'll be really embarrassing.
And Gagan, the last one we have is, how long can you store an open bottle of wine in home conditions without a vacuum sealer? I open a bottle of wine and I put the cork back or the screw top back, and I leave it back in the fridge immediately. But if I've drunk a lot of it, then maybe 1 day, or 2 to 3 days, easy. Sometimes even 4 or 5 days, depending on the wine. But beyond the third day, you start noticing deterioration for sure. Rachna, all yours. You want everything.
So before coming to the end of the session, can I have a small rapid fire round with both of you? We just ask you a few random questions and you have to answer it in one sentence or a word.
All right.
So our first question is, what do you like to do during your spare time? It's for both of you.
Reading music, one of those things, I guess, for me. Reading, I know, reading Mughal history for Magagan, philosophy for me. That's two things you've got down there.
And then we have our dogs to take care of. So we really have any free time for ourselves.
Question is, which is the best part of your work?
For sure.
Yeah, I was about to say something similar, that I think one of the best things about F&B is that you meet people, you interact with them, you learn something new from every person. I've learned a lot from doctors and lawyers in general, in specific. And I think that is, as you also mentioned, I think we are missing that part the most. Otherwise, we have got good company, we've got good alcohol, so life is good otherwise.
Who is your biggest inspiration in life?
For me, the other man on the screen. I decided that I will be a sommelier when I was in my 9th standard. When I went to hotel management, I told my father that this is the man I'm going to work with. I went to Australia, finished my course, came back, and I said, "Give me a job," and he gave it to me. So, and we guys have been working together since then.
He's been stuck with I think for me, I don't know about inspirations from one person. I think I'm really inspired by the generation today. Spot on. Even when I see Gagan, who's 10 years younger than me, and then 10 years younger than him further, I see people are getting more and more sure about what they wish to do in their lives. And I wish I had that kind of clarity when I was 18, 19, or even 30. Inspiration, I think, is looking back at the young people and drawing a youthful energy from them. Old people, there's no point looking at them. I'm there anyways. So, yeah.
And then, what is your favorite alcoholic beverage?
We could never answer.
Yeah, I think we should take favorite out of the dictionary when we are talking about beverages any which way.
Yeah. No favorite.
And the last question is, what message would you like to give the students who wish to become successful in the future?
I think for me, it'll be just stay humble, stay aware, and don't be swayed by labels. Don't think that you need a Wset or something to make it big. In the world who shook the wine world had no Wset, no CMS. Okay, Steven Spurrier. I can think of 100 names. Anybody at Chateau Margot's ownership, Chateau Latour's owners, Screaming Eagle. All these brands are owned by people. Okay, Henschke, Peter Gago, Max Schubert. All these guys who make the best wine in the world are not Wset. They're not CMS. They're just good. Learn to be humble to your senses and are aware and follow the right people and listen to what others are telling you, but then process it reasonably. You will know the answers anyways. And we are happy to guide you along the way. I didn't have anyone when I came back from the industry. Gagan grew up in an industry where he didn't have many peers alongside him. But now today, Sahil finds it's heavy competition. So we're happy to talk you through it. That's all my message. Stay humble and stay... Okay. Gagan, yours.
Well, I would just say two things. One is ask as many questions as possible, which you did today as well. There are no stupid questions. There are no stupid answer. And sometimes you need to get through, you need to ask stupid questions so that you become a little aware that, oh, what a fool I was to ask that stupid question. Now I need to study a little more before I go and open my mouth. The second thing is ask questions or not, but do, and this is something that the hospitality industry doesn't allow us to have, have a voice. Make sure that your thoughts are shared with people. If you learn something, stick by it. I think we both put together, we are little open mouth, a little big mouth, and we have landed ourselves in trouble a lot because of that. But at least today, people, not openly, but they do know that these are guys who will not take any sort of, anything that is served to them. They will critique it, they will ask questions, and if there is anything good or bad about it, they will be able to distill it, and so there's no fooling them. So be like that. Ask questions so that you know you're on the right path and you're aware. And then what do you think about it? Make sure that you speak up. That is one thing that the hospitality industry in general needs to inculcate as a habit.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much for answering all our questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rachna. Thank you, both of you. The vote of thanks will be followed up by Mrs. Aradhana Nair. Aradhana, it's all you.
So, guys, before we finish this off, we do understand 1 hour is not enough to answer all your questions. So I've put our email ID here. You have our Instagram as well. So yeah, if you have any questions, if you want any sort of guidance, if you ever wish to connect with us, please feel free to do that. There are not a lot of people who will guide you in this field for sure, but we want to be one.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Aradhana Nair, kindly take over.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. As all good things come to an end in life, so is this webinar. On behalf of F&B Department, Institute of Hotel Management, Chennai, I take this opportunity to propose vote of thanks to those who have directly and indirectly contributed to this webinar on Sommelier, a way of life, organized by our institute. At the outset, I thank our speakers, Mr. Gagan Sharma and Mr. Magandeep Singh, IWBS India. In spite of their busy schedule, they gave time to us for giving their valuable knowledge and insights about this divine drink and its ancillaries. I'm thankful to our beloved Principal Sir and HOD Madam for giving free hands for the staff to organize and conduct webinar, especially during this pandemic. I would like to thank our department in charge, Mr. D. Ilangovan, Mr. Michael Santosh, and Mr. Manikandan for organizing this webinar. My heartfelt thanks to the entire faculties of IHM Chennai, students, and all other participants who gained the valuable inputs given by the expertise. Last but not the least, I would like to thank Rachna, Pranav Jairam, and Sanal of second year BSc HNHA who have been our strength and tech support. With these warm words and a kind message, we move to the end of today's webinar. Hope to see everyone with another lovely session very soon. Thank you. Stay safe.
Thank you, everyone. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everyone. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.